Hey guys, I feel like I heard my people cry out, and they cried into the void. Boyle, what we want to do is review period 6. And when I heard the cry of my people, I decided I really had no choice but to respond. So, due to your overwhelming popular demand, here is a review video on period 6. Again, this is a horizontal. We're looking at the whole period. And then next week, we're going to do the vertical reviews of how the themes develop throughout periods of history. So again, we're kind of doing it by period now, by theme next week. So period 6, 1865 to 1898. We know that the start of this period, 1865, is an important year because what major event ends? And if you said the Civil War, you're absolutely right. And then 1898 is important because what war basically begins and ends that year? And if you said the Spanish-American War, you're correct. So in this period, what we're really looking at are, on the foreign level, how does America grow as a power between the Civil War and the Spanish-American War, which is our first really, war with an overseas power since the War of 1812. The period in question here is kind of going to see America go from a country that looks inward to a country that looks outward. So when we look at the theme of American identity becomes a really big deal, right? Because as we talked about in the last period, during the Civil War, you have this idea that it's these United States instead of the United States. And after the Civil War, especially during the Reconstruction period, you have the idea that there is an American identity spreading out throughout the country. And by the time we get to the Spanish-American War, the idea of America as a nation, as a powerful nation, becomes a widespread idea throughout the country. As it says here, the Spanish-American War reunites the North and the South. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of details, but as the Spanish-American War breaks out, we start sending a lot of troops down towards Florida, where they're going to embark on ships for the invasion of Cuba. And so these federal troops are going to be coming from the north, training bases throughout the north, through states like the Carolinas and Georgia to get to Florida. And you can only imagine, in 1898, there are a lot of people alive who remember the Civil War. If you were 10 years old when the Civil War ended, you're only in your 40s or 50s when these Yankee troops wearing the same blue are coming back through your state again. And this was a moment that was fraught with peril. This was a moment that could have been really dangerous. Like the Southerners could have been, I ain't have no dang Yankees going through my state again. But the American Army does something kind of brilliant. And they take one of the old, respected, former Confederate generals, and they put him in charge of one of these units. And so when Johnson wears the uniform of the United States in the South, it kind of lends legitimacy to the idea that, hey, guess what? This is okay. We are one country again. And that's kind of a big deal in American identity. When we look up and we're in the politics and power zone, we had this brief and shining moment of citizenship and rights for African Americans, and it ends. When Reconstruction ends with the Compromise of 1877, this brief period of African American people in the South sharing power ends. Jim Crow segregation becomes law. We have during this period, this is when Plessy versus Ferguson happens, and separate but equal becomes the law of the land. Republicans are in power. At the national level, Republicans have control of the Congress through this period. They have control of the presidency for all but the brief blips of Grover Cleveland in here. It's really a Republican-dominated scene, which was kind of set up by the Compromise of 1877. In business, we see that America is becoming the largest industrial power in the world, bar none. There's nobody close. In Germany, in Austria-Hungary, in England, in France, they're industrializing much more slowly than the United States does. And because of our steel industry, because of our railroads, America really becomes an industrial power. In the factories, we've talked about it before, the working conditions are really dramatic. Hold on just a minute. I have a